Hello guys, in this tutorial we will learn about authentication with Laravel and Vue.js. So we will create an authentication layer with Vue.js and Laravel and connect them both. So let's get started. So I'm going to open my htdocs and open git bash here and just say Laravel new auth, and I'm going to pause the video while it's installing. Here we go, now we're done. So we're going to go to the folder and open with code. Close this, we don't need it. And the next thing we need to do is run npm install. So we're going to say npm install. And in the meantime, we're going to do a few things. First of all, we need to go to app providers, app service provider, and say schema default string length 191. This will prevent database errors. Next, we're going to install npm install Vue router. And next, when it's done, there we go, we're going to say php artisan make controller app controller, and this sits in http controllers app controller. We will need use illuminate support facades auth, and we'll need a few functions. So function, first we will have init, then we will have login, then we will have register, and then we will have logout. So first let's do a register. It will take request, and same with login. We just copy and paste. So we will need a user here. Use app user. So we will say user equals new user, username. We will use username instead for email. Username, user password equals bcrypt request password, user save, and then auth login user. And when we will return response JSON user 200. First we need to though check if the username exists. So user equals user where username equals to request username first. Then we say if is set user ID, and then we return response JSON error username already exists, status of 401. And then we need login, which will basically be if auth attempt true to make it remember, and then we return response JSON auth user status of 200. and we need to change this to username, and this has to be request username and request password. Else return response JSON error could not log you in, status of 401. Then we need an init function. Actually, let's create the logout function first. Basically, it will be auth logout. That's it. We will need to return a response, and here we will say user auth user return response JSON user status of 200. And then we need some routes. So go to our web file, and here we will say route prefix auth group function route post login app controller at login route post register app controller register, and then logout. And then we need a get init app controller at init. That's it. Now what we need to do is go to our resources, views, welcome, and just call this auth example, delete this, delete these, delete this. We need CSRF token. Just copy this, paste it here. That's it. And then we need to say div ID of app. This is for Vue. And here we need to say a link. Asset CSS app.css. And here we will need a script where we will say var base URL equals to URL to like so. And then we need a script source asset JS app.js. That's it. And then we will need to go to our JS components. We just delete the example component. In our app.js, we just delete those comments. We don't need them. And this will just say new view, and it will say render age app mount app. We need a router as well, so just go like this, say import view router from view router, view use view router, and we need some routes file, so routes.js, and it will be export default like so, and we will need a page, so create a page, pages, new file, home, home.vue, scaffold, div, class, container, h1, home. That's it. And here we will need to say import home from pages home, path like so, component home, name home. And in our app.js we need to say import routes from routes, and say const router equals new view router, and just say routes here. It should work, except we need a app.vue, div, and here we'll say router view. So we need to import app from app.vue. Sorry. Now we need to say npm run watch. It's going to do some installation for us, a Vue template compiler. Here we go. Now if we refresh, we can see auth, public, and we can see home. Now let's create a navbar. So let's go to Bootstrap, documentation, components, navbar, and just copy this navbar. Go into components, create a new file called navbar, view, scaffold, div class container, paste it, and we don't need the form, so just delete the form. And what we do need is we need a UL class of navbar, nav ml auto, like so, and just take this one, paste it here, and delete these, delete active, delete this, and this will say router link to, like so, and just delete the href, we don't need it. And here we will say we need a few things, so we'll name navbar, props, app, data, methods, logout. We can just create the logout right now. So logout will be this app rec, we'll create this for later, post of logout. Then we don't have a response for this, it's empty, so we're going to say this router push login, and we also need to say this app user equals null. Now we'll create this app user here. Name app data user null. We also need loading. We don't need loading. We need initiated. Yeah, actually, we need loading. Wait, loading false. Initiated false. And then we say methods. Init. And we also need this rec. So it's going to be Axios create base URL base URL. So in it we need this .rec .get auth init, then response this user equals response data, this loading equals false, this initiated equals true. And here we need to say this loading equals true. Here we go. Now here all we need to do is say, and we also need to import the navbar. So import navbar from components navbar. And we need to register it here. Components navbar. And we can just use it here then. Navbar. And app this. We need to bind it. And say here div vf loading. Actually we need to install something. We need to install Vue simple spinner. Just wait for it to install. Here we go. Now in app.js we need to register it. So Vue component spinner require Vue simple spinner. And now if we go to here, we can say spinner vf loading and say here div vlsif initiated. Then do we do this. And now in our navbar it should be okay. Here we go. In our navbar we don't need these area controls. Just say auth example navbar dark bg primary and here we say app user name, otherwise account. You don't need these, and just say router link to login. Login. Actually, I'm going to wrap this in a div. Vf not app user. Then do we show this? Now we can copy it, call it register, and say a tref JavaScript, like so, class drop down item, say log out, and this will say velse, and at click log out. Here we go. Let's take a look. Here we go. Except we don't have login and register yet. So go to database, migrations, just delete this and change this to username. Delete this, save it, go to our local host, phpMyAdmin. New database is just called auth example. Here we go. Now go to our env file, change this to auth example. Database credentials go here. Here we go. Now we can just say php artisan migrate. Here we go. Let's take a look if it's loading our init. It's not, because we didn't call it. So we have our init function, but we need to call it when it's mounted. So this dot init, and it says nothing. Actually, I would like to have it differently. I would like to have it like so. User. Let's take a look. User null. And in our app.vue, we need to say responsive data user. Here we go, now it works. So now we have it like so. And by the way, we need to say in our app, we need to say class margin bottom 2. So there's a little bit of space. Here we go. And router view needs app this as well. Here we go. Now we can create our login and register pages. So let's start with register. View. And we need login.view as well. So let's create a scaffold. Div class container. Div class card. Div class card header. And we say register. Div class call 6, call md 6, offset md 6. Actually, this needs to be inside of a div class card body. And here we will say form v on submit that prevent on submit, and here we can say div class form group, and here we have a label called name, and we will have input type text class form control placeholder name vmodel name, and say I'll just copy for for username, for password and password confirmation. And here we'll have a button, class of btn primary, actually success, called register. And here we will have username and this lowercase. Here we will have password, lowercase p, and here password again. Here we go. Now what we need to do is create our JavaScript. So register props app data name username password again, like so. And here we'll need methods on a submit, and we also need errors, like so. So on submit we need to reset the errors, like so, and say if not this name, this errors push name is required. If not this username, this errors push username is required. Say if not this password, this errors push password is required. And say if not this password again, this errors push password confirmation is required. And here say if this password not equals to this password again, this errors push passwords do not match. And here say if not this errors length, const data equals name, this name, username, this username, password, this password. And we say this app rec post auth register data, then response, and then catch error, if error, actually just say this errors dot push error response dot data dot error, like so. And here we say this app user equals response dot data, this router push, like so. Now register in our routes. So import register from pages register, and just say here path register component register, name, register. Let's go to our bash. Okay, it works. Now we need to go to our navbar. We have it already. Let's take a look. Oh my god, that looks bad. Let's take a look again at our styling. Okay, 3. Like so. There we go. Except now we need our div class alert danger, vif errors the length, ul class mb0 because it's gonna look ugly, v4 error in errors error. Here we go. Now let's take a look. Now we can register and say, and it says the name is required, username is required, password is required, password confirmation is required. So let's just register. Oh yeah, and in password we need type password. So my name, now we have an error. Field name doesn't have a default value. Oh yeah, because in our app controller we didn't specify user name. Request.name. Here we go. Let's take a look. Register, and we have it. We have our register. We can log out as well. We can log in, or we can log in. We didn't create it yet, but let's do it now, and we're almost done. So scaffold. Actually, I'm gonna copy from register. Except we don't need name, and we don't need password again. And here it says login, and here it's supposed to say login, and here login. We don't need this, we don't need this, and 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 we don't need this. And here it's supposed to say login. Just take a look. So yeah, so in login, there we go. It should work. Now go to our routes, import login from login, copy this, I'll go like so, login, and this is supposed to be login. Here we go. Now let's take a look. Now we have it like this. Now we're logged in. So that's it, guys. How about if we cannot log in? Could not log you in. So it works out of the box. So that's it, guys. That's how easy it is to log and register a person in. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, guys. I hope you will subscribe and like the video. Thank you very much for watching. Mikolai. See you guys.